Sometimes, as the saying goes, if it is too good to be true, it probably is. And when aviation lads started previewing the FlightSim Studio Embraer E175 from their upcoming E-Jet family, the majority of the FlightSim community, me included, became ecstatic just at the sight of what seemed to be a glossy regional jet with what looked to have a well-crafted interior and exterior coupled with high fidelity systems. Well, come the 10th of January, we have a half-baked Embraer E175 up for sale at $47.99, including my local UK tax, available on Aerosoft. And this aircraft has default systems, a hilariously lackluster autopilot, the aerodynamics of a fridge freezer, and seems to be rather timid in the sounds department. So what on earth happened here? Well, in today's video, we'll be talking about the FlightSim Studio E175, which was released on the 10th of January. And there is a lot more to this than meets the eye. So what happened? Where is this aircraft some people thought we were promised? Well, quite simply, the product was released as an early access product, and let me be 100% clear here, I've got absolutely no issue with this. This is not a scam, this is not scandalous, it's just an early access product. It was released like that, and the developer has been clear with that, especially seen as the developer is offering this early access aircraft at a discounted rate. In my opinion, that's perfectly fair and is the correct thing to do. Now, just to address some of those issues that have been there from other content creators on YouTube and throughout the community, I do think the developers could probably brush up on their marketing skills, and in fairness, the Aviation Lads people did do such a fantastic job that I think it created this impression that many of us fell for. So in hindsight, they could probably do with some more clearer information there, but hindsight is a very powerful thing, so I don't believe for any second that any malicious practices have occurred here. I just believe it was a sloppy release. Regardless, we've got an aircraft now. We've got it as an early access aircraft, so do bear this in mind. This review will probably be outdated pretty quickly. FlightSim Studio have realised their mistakes and addressed it with a pretty good statement, which is again the correct thing to do. And that, to be fair, is all I really think I need to say regarding that bit of the video. So now shall we actually take a look at the early access aircraft. Most of you will know, if you've been on my channel for a long time, that I never like to over sensationalise things, and I like to be as honest as possible. So as always, it's my own opinion, and you're very welcome to agree or disagree down below and participate in civil debate. I'm always up for it. With that out of the way, onwards with my first impressions. So the Embraer E175 was released on the 10th of January 2023 as an early access product, available off vendors like Aerosoft. FlightSim Studio have said that with frequent updates in the future, and the addition of the E170 being given to anyone that's bought the current early access package, this means eventually you should get a high fidelity airliner, and two of them, the E175 and the E170. For those of you that care, the Embraer E190 and E195 will also be released in the future, but as a separate product, presumably at a higher price than the first iteration of the E175, which we're talking about today. As right now, the E175 package we've got comes in at a price of $47.99, including my local tax. That of course gives me access to any future updates and the E170 when it comes out, but seeing as it is early access, we have got what is at the moment a subpar product that most of you aren't going to enjoy if you go in with the mindset of thinking this is a fully fleshed out airliner, because my goodness, it is almost the complete opposite of that. So realistically, this should be seen as some sort of investment. If you have faith in the FlightSim Studio team and think they are going to follow through, keep updating this airliner, release the E170 all as planned, then you can pick it up now for $48, and that will mean you save some money down the road. My position on that would be that I don't recommend it. Of course, I've bought the aircraft for the sake of the video, but I would say to you, as a general rule of life, don't buy anything based on future promises. In my opinion, it is a bit of a silly idea. But there's nothing wrong with FlightSim Studio doing it. They're taking people's money, so obviously they think they're going to follow through with it, because it would be quite messy if they did not. But yes, my overall opinion would be don't ever buy anything based on future promises. That's not to say FlightSim Studio won't do amazing things, I believe they will be, but it is just general advice not to buy stuff based on future promises. With that out of the way, let's talk about what's good with the E175. So first off, there is a fantastic external model, really beautiful, really good E175. It was made in collaboration with X-Crafts, which is always a good thing. It also comes along with a good array of real-world liveries, from United to American to KLM, which I've been flying quite a bit with lately. It also includes a pretty well modelled cockpit with good to acceptable internal textures and very good dynamic lighting, at least in the cockpit. There's also a solid start to animations on the outside and the inside, from armrests moving about to the buttons moving as expected to going in the cabin and everything looking quite good there. And speaking about the cabin, there is a modelled cabin fit for your virtual passengers with marvellous dynamic lighting, looks really good in there, and one thing they've done as well is matching up with the real world liveries, head in the cabin there, and you'll see the correct airline branding. That is it when it comes to the good things. It looks nice, it's good eye candy at the moment, but I'm afraid that's as good as it's probably going to get now. Shall we talk about the bad? There is a poor quality of systems, with many of them actually based on default Microsoft Flight Sim systems, albeit reskinned to look more Embraer-y. Not that that's a word, but you get what I mean. The systems have been made to look like they're from an Embraer when they're actually based on Microsoft Flight Sim's default systems from the STK, it seems. That means there is a lack of a sophisticated autopilot that results in poor quality of flight if you want to sort of replicate an airliner standard of flying that you're used to if you're flying around with a Phoenix A320 or PMDG 737. It will improve with time, I've got no doubt there, but at the moment you can just about manage to do A to B. I can't even load in any sort of ILS approach via the MCDU, so that's not too good, and with that there is an incredibly limited MCDU to the point where you might as well just reintroduce the flight engineer back into the cockpit, because the computers in this aircraft are of no help whatsoever, and you'll probably find, just like me, as soon as you come close to an airport you just revert to manually hand flying some sort of weird arrival that you've made up in your head, because there isn't really a way to load it in to the aircraft properly to the point where it accurately follows it. In addition, sounds, while they are great in some cases, many seem to be, especially with the engines, washed out and unrealistically quiet. And there is also a poor flight model that once again I would say has been based on some sort of Microsoft Flight Sim default aircraft. I'm leaning towards the feel of one of the BizJets, although they're even slightly better now, I don't know. But I was coming to land with good conditions. I was at about 100 knots and the aircraft did just not want to hit the ground. I actually had to slam the wheels down because this aircraft was just floating, despite the fact everything was set up for what should have been a fairly acceptable landing. And finally, sadly, there is poor FPS. I'm looking at around 40% lower than the PMDG 737. That is an absolute killer for me. FPS is probably the thing I'm more concerned about, more concerned than advanced systems in fairness, because what is the point of having good systems if the FPS are down to the point where it's somewhat unplayable, if you're twitching about and you can't accurately land? It is just horrible. So at the moment there is poor FPS performance. Granted, to FlightSim Studios, that it did sort of improve after a few load ups, but they're still not great. Now that I've listed the bad and the good, I would just like to say that is what I expected. It is an early access product. I never expected a fully fleshed out airliner, and if you're buying this aircraft, you shouldn't expect that either, because it is not what you're getting. And FlightSim Studios, despite all the initial issues with release, they have been incredibly transparent here and willing to fess up to their mistakes. I feel a bit bad for them in a way, because Aviation Lads did a fantastic job with those trailers to the point where it did look really good. But at the end of the day, they were only 40-second trailers, so it is what it is. I would just like to say as well, of course, I confess to not being an airliner pilot. My flight experience consists of 20 hours in a Cessna 152, so while I got a feel for all aspects of flight, my comments about flight model should be taken with a pinch of salt. I've been flying on Flight Sim enough to know what feels right, and I don't think floating down the runway at 100 knots in this sort of aircraft is correct, to the point where you need to push it down. But always bear that in mind when you're watching a YouTube review. Almost none of us are airliner pilots, so while we've all got our own opinions, there is of course a limited opinion there, I guess. And that's it really. I think I'd just like to say, if you head into the cockpit expecting a fully fleshed out regional jet ready for FlightSim flying, then just prepare to be absolutely disappointed. Instead, head into the cockpit with the knowledge that this project is still work in progress, should be updated into the future to a higher standard, and with that, you won't be disappointed. You know exactly what you've paid for. It does fly, but just about. The developer knows this as much as we do. It simply just needs many more man hours of work. I'd probably give it at least 6 months until you look at buying this aircraft if you want to start using it for more regular flights, and give it a year before you want to start using this aircraft for flights on the like of FlightSim, because from the looks of it there is still a long way to go. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen on Microsoft Flight Sim, but set your expectations correctly. I feel the developer was slightly head over heels with this project. I don't think anything malicious went on. I just think at the end of the day we are all human and we all make mistakes. So I, unlike some others, really can't pin that much blame on the developer. He has released a product as early access, and that is all that it is, in my opinion anyway. On that note, I just cannot recommend it at the moment. If you're expecting anything more than a subpar early access aircraft, I wish the developer all the luck with it. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Please do leave your thoughts down below. I did pay for this out of my own pocket, so your support is always very much appreciated. The bottom line is, do not buy this aircraft unless you're willing to take the gamble that it will be updated in the future. There is just simply too much missing for this to be considered anything other but an early access work in progress aircraft. Luckily, that's exactly what we're being sold across the FlightSim Studio website, so there isn't really any wrongdoing there. As I said, to those not willing to take that risk, wait anywhere between 6 months to a year, and by that point it should have heavily improved. Until that point, I just cannot recommend it as anything other than a simple gamble on the future. Thank you very much for watching this video, it means a lot. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed, and if you're heading over to FlightSim Expo over in Texas next year, which is the largest flight sim expo in the world, use the code pilotstudd for 10% off. I'll see you there. From me to there, that is all. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Fifty, 40, 30, 20, 10.